200 men tried. 200 failed. The average survival time was 4.7 seconds. Not to win. Not to score. Just to survive 10 seconds. The prize was $80,000, sitting in a briefcase at the edge of the stage. Untouched across 15 cities and 200 attempts. When the announcer asked if anyone else wanted to try, the room was silent. Then a quiet voice from row 14 said, "I'll try." The man who stood up weighed 138 pounds. 6 seconds later, he was standing 1 inch from the mountain's chin with his palm raised. And the mountain understood. Los Angeles, California. Grand Olympic Auditorium. November 11, 1967. 800 people in the hall. The air smelled of popcorn and leather and cigarette smoke drifting through spotlight beams above the main stage. Fighters moving through the haze looked like ghosts. But everyone knew why they were really here. Not the karate demonstrations. Not the judo throws. The red letters on every poster, plastered from San Diego to San Francisco. The Mountain Challenge. Survive 10 seconds. Win $80,000. Below that, a record that read like a casualty report, 200 challengers. 200 defeated. Average survival time, 4.7 seconds. And then one question designed to reach into the chest of every martial artist who read it and squeeze until their ego either inflated or collapsed. Are you brave enough? In row 14, a small man in a black mandarin collar jacket was reading the program. His eyes stopped on the number. 4.7 seconds. He read it again. His expression didn't change. His name was Bruce Lee. 27 years old. 138 pounds. 5'7". The same man who 3 years earlier had made 500 karate practitioners question everything they believed at the Long Beach International Championships. The same man who moved so fast that cameras couldn't capture him at standard speed. He read the number once more, then folded the program and slid it into his jacket pocket. He had already identified the only number that mattered. Not 4.7. Not 10. 1.5. 3 days earlier, Dan Inosanto had called him. "There's a giant at the expo," Dan said. "Almost 500 pounds. Been crushing martial artists across the country. 200 challengers. Nobody's lasted 10 seconds. Bruce was quiet on the phone. Dan knew that silence well. It meant a gear had shifted that most human minds didn't have. "What's his technique?" Bruce asked. "He doesn't really have one," Dan said. "He just grabs you. And once he does, it's over." One man in Chicago broke 3 ribs just from being pressed against the mat. "How does he grab?" Bruce said. "What do you mean?" "The entry. How does he close the distance? Does he rush? Does he wait? Left hand or right hand first? High or low?" Dan thought. "He rushes. Straight forward, both arms wide. He tries to wrap you up in a clinch. Once his arms are around you, your feet leave the ground." For seconds of silence on the line. Dan counted them. Then Bruce spoke. "A bear hug requires 2 arms around the body. That means his center line is open for approximately 1.5 seconds during the entry. His chest, his throat, his solar plexus, 0 protection." Dan felt a chill. He had trained with Bruce for years. He knew what 1.5 seconds meant in Bruce Lee's hands. "You're going to challenge him." "Get me 2 tickets," Bruce said. "Good seats." The lights dimmed. The spotlight hit center stage. The announcer's voice crackled through the speakers, theatrical, carrying the specific register of a man who had done this in 15 cities and knew exactly how to build toward inevitability. Karate champions. Judo masters. Professional wrestlers. Boxers. College linebackers. Marines. Green Berets. Every kind of tough man this country produces. A pause. Every single one has failed. He let it settle. The longest anyone has survived, 8.3 seconds. A judo black belt from Osaka, Japan. Lifted 4 feet off the ground and driven into the stage so hard the wood cracked beneath him. He walked with a limp for 6 weeks. A man in a black suit stood at the edge of the stage, holding an open briefcase. Under the spotlight, stacks of $100 bills gleamed. Now please welcome the man who has made that money untouchable. The undisputed, undefeated, unstoppable force of nature. Standing 6'3", nearly 500 pounds. The Mountain. Viktor Kranov. The stage shook before anyone saw him. Not metaphor. The wooden platform vibrated with each footfall as he walked from the curtain. The audience felt him before they saw him. Then he appeared, and the auditorium went into the specific silence of animals who sense a predator. Viktor Kranov was not fat. That was the terrifying part. He was massive in a way that seemed biologically wrong. Shoulders wider than doorframes. Chest like a barrel wrapped in stretched skin. Thighs individually larger than most men's waists. His hands hung at his sides like flesh-colored catcher's mitts. His neck had disappeared entirely into a mountain range of trapezius muscle connecting his skull directly to his shoulders. He walked to center stage. Stood under the spotlight. Didn't flex. Didn't pose. His existence was his demonstration. Then his ritual. He walked to the edge of the stage, picked up a wooden folding chair, held it in one hand like a normal person held a pencil. Then he closed his fist. The chair didn't snap. It compressed. Wood crumpling inward, metal legs bending like soft wire, the entire structure folding into a twisted ball of debris in 3 seconds. He dropped it. Thud. No applause. No cheers. Just silence. One woman in the 5th row stood up and quietly left. She had seen enough. 3 challengers before the announcer would scan the crowd for a 4th. A Marine. 230 pounds. Crew cut, military bearing, the kind of man trained to walk toward danger. He lasted 3.1 seconds. His feet left the ground at 2.4. He tapped 3 times frantically, the universal signal for stop, for surrender, for please. He sat on the stage gasping, holding his ribs, eyes wet from the pressure on his chest cavity. A wrestler from UCLA. 260 pounds. 5.2 seconds. A karate black belt from San Diego. 195 pounds. 4.1 seconds. 3 more names added to the list. 203 challengers. 203 failures. The briefcase still locked. The money still untouched. The audience had completed the mathematics. Size wins. Mass wins. Gravity wins. The laws of physics were as undefeated as Viktor Kranov. Anyone else? The announcer scanned the crowd. His voice had lost some of its theater. Last call. $80,000. 10 seconds. Anyone? Silence. The audience had done the calculation. They had watched 3 more people try and fail in front of their eyes. Different sizes, different backgrounds, same result. The announcer was about to close the challenge. I'll try. Quiet. Conversational. No aggression, no bravado. The way you ordered coffee. The announcer squinted into the darkness beyond the stage lights. Who said that? I did. A man stood up in row 14. Black mandarin collar jacket. Black pants. No visible uniform, no belt, no rank on display. Small. That was the first thing everyone noticed. Not just regular small, small in the context of what he was volunteering for. The 3 men who had just failed weighed 230, 260, and 195. This man looked lighter than any of them. Significantly lighter. Some people laughed. Not cruelly. Protectively, the laughter of people saying, please don't do this to yourself. A woman whispered to her husband, someone should stop him. He'll get killed. Dan grabbed Bruce's sleeve. His whisper was urgent, Cantonese mixed with English. Bruce, I brought you here to watch, not to fight. You weigh 138 pounds. He weighs 500. This isn't philosophy. This is compression force. This is a hospital visit. Bruce buttoned his jacket. The same gesture he always made before something began. He looked at Dan. 1.5 seconds, Dan. That's all I need. He started walking toward the stage. 800 people watched him. Every single one was thinking the same thing. The walk from row 14 to the stage was 40 feet. He covered it in exactly the time it took for the audience to start feeling guilty about watching. This felt wrong. This felt like watching someone walk into traffic. He reached the stage. Climbed 2 steps. His feet made almost no sound on the wood. Where Victor had made the stage tremble, Bruce made it whisper. He walked to center stage and stopped. And for the first time, the audience understood the full dimensions of what was about to happen. Victor's chest was at Bruce's eye level. Victor's shadow fell across Bruce completely. Victor's single hand hanging at his side was larger than Bruce's head. A man in the 7th row stood up and shouted, "Don't do it, kid. You don't have to prove anything." Bruce didn't turn around. He was already past the point where words from strangers meant anything. The announcer approached with a clipboard. Name? Bruce Lee. Weight? 138. The pen stopped. The announcer looked up at Victor. Then back at Bruce. The lightest challenger tonight was 195. The lightest ever was 172. I can count, Bruce said. Any injuries or medical conditions? None. But you should have a medical team ready. We always do, for the challenger. Bruce looked at him. His expression was perfectly neutral. I wasn't talking about me. The announcer walked away confused. Victor watched from his corner. He had heard the stats. 138 pounds. He processed this the same way he processed all challenger information, irrelevant. The outcome was identical whether the man weighed 138 or 238. Grab, lift, squeeze, drop. Next. But something made him look twice. He couldn't identify it. Something in the way this small man moved. His feet weren't planted the way frightened men planted their feet, wide, rigid, bracing for impact. This man's feet were light. His weight was forward slightly. Not the posture of someone preparing to defend. The posture of someone preparing to move. Victor dismissed the thought. You didn't attack a mountain. You survived it. If you could. The bell rang. Victor exploded forward. Both arms wide, head down. 500 pounds of human freight covering the distance in under 2 seconds. The rush that had ended 203 men. The tsunami. The avalanche. Every previous challenger had done one of three things. Some froze, paralyzed by the sight of 500 pounds charging. They were grabbed while standing still. Some retreated, backpedaled, tried to escape. Victor caught them at the ropes. Some attacked, threw punches, kicks, desperate techniques that bounced off Victor's body like rain off concrete. Then they were grabbed. Freeze. Retreat. Attack. 203 attempts. Every option tried. Every option failed. Bruce Lee chose option 4. The option that didn't exist. The option nobody had thought of because nobody had asked the right question. He moved forward. Not backward. Not sideways. Forward. Into the charge. Toward 500 pounds of oncoming mass. The audience gasped. Several people looked away. But Bruce Lee didn't collide with Viktor Kranov. In the 1.8 seconds it took Victor to cross the ring, Bruce had moved forward and to the left. Not far, 18 inches. Just enough to be outside the arc of Victor's outstretched arms. Just enough to let 500 pounds of momentum rush past him like a train passing a man standing 1 foot from the tracks. You feel the wind. You feel the ground shake. But you are untouched. Victor's arms closed on empty air. His momentum carried him 2 steps past where Bruce had been standing. For the first time in 204 attempts, Viktor Kranov had grabbed nothing. Victor turned. Confused. This had never happened. In 204 attempts, nobody had made him miss. He faced Bruce, charged again, faster, angrier, arms sweeping wider to cover more area. Bruce moved again. Same direction, left. But this time, as Victor's massive right arm swept past, Bruce's left hand touched it lightly. 2 fingers on the inside of Victor's wrist. Not pushing. Not grabbing. Guiding. The arm that was meant to trap him continued its arc but traveled 2 inches further than Victor intended. 2 inches. In combat, 2 inches was the difference between capture and freedom. Victor's arms closed behind Bruce, grabbing each other instead of their target. 500 pounds, hugging empty air. Victor stumbling forward, arms wrapped around himself. A 138-pound man standing calmly behind him. The audience couldn't process it. Their brains rejected the information. The small man was not just surviving. He was making the giant miss repeatedly, effortlessly. Victor's frustration was genuine. His confusion was real. His breath was getting heavier. He had never had to chase a challenger. Challengers came to him. They got grabbed. They failed. This man was rewriting the sequence. Victor charged a 3rd time. Everything he had. No technique, no strategy. Pure animal aggression. The mountain coming down on a village. And this time, Bruce didn't just evade. He stepped inside. Close. Impossibly close. Inside the radius of Victor's arms, where the grab had no mechanical power. His right foot planted between Victor's massive boots. His body aligned in the specific geometric configuration that 20 years of refinement had been building toward. His right hand rose. Open palm, aimed upward, stopped 1 inch from Victor's chin. 1 inch. Between consciousness and darkness. Bruce held it there. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3. Victor was completely still. Not because he was forced to be. Because he understood, with sudden, complete clarity, that the hand 1 inch from his chin was not a threat. It was proof. Proof that everything he had built his identity around, the size, the weight, the 204 victories, could be bypassed. That the gap he had never imagined existed had been found and occupied by a man who weighed less than a quarter of what he weighed. And if that hand moved forward 1 inch, everything would end. The arena held its breath for 3 full seconds. Then it detonated. 800 people on their feet, stamping the old wooden floor until it shook harder than Victor's footsteps ever had. Because they had just watched something that violated the logic they had walked in with. A 138-pound man had not just survived. He had made survival irrelevant. Bruce stepped back. Calm, composed, untouched. His jacket still buttoned exactly where he had buttoned it. He gave a small bow. Not toward the audience. Directed at Victor. Then he walked off the stage, down the steps, through the auditorium. Row 14, seat 6. He sat down. Dan's hands were still shaking. How many seconds was that? Bruce opened the program to the page he had folded. Smoothed the crease with his thumb. I wasn't counting. A pause. I told you I wasn't interested in surviving 10 seconds. On stage, the briefcase sat exactly where it had been. $80,000. Untouched. Bruce never asked for it. Never looked at it. He didn't come for the money. He came because Dan had told him nobody had solved the problem. And Bruce Lee could not walk away from an unsolved problem, especially one that 200 men had answered incorrectly because they had all asked the wrong question. The question was never, how do you survive 500 pounds? The question was, where is 500 pounds vulnerable? And the answer was 1.5 seconds during the entry, when both arms were committed to the grab and the center line was open. That was the question nobody had asked. That was the calculation nobody had run. That was the number Bruce had memorized in row 14 while reading a program that said the problem was unsolvable. Not 4.7. Not 10. 1.5. November 11, 1967. 800 witnesses. The night the mountain met water. And the water found a way through.